and infant loss. It's not the usual conversation we have on a Wednesday on this show, but I saw a conversation that women were having on Twitter a couple of weeks ago, and I said to myself, hey, you have more than 720,000 listeners, and half of that number, women. And some of them, if you believe a research done by LUTH, have had their babies die as a result of miscarriage or soon after they're born. Our big hard fact is that in 2013, a LUTH study found that approximately 1 in 3.7 pregnancies ended in miscarriage. And then in 2019, the infant mortality rate in Nigeria was about 74.2 deaths per 1,000 live births. That's data that you can find on Statista. So it's quite the sobering number. You think about that data and you have to pause and say, wait, are conversations about miscarriage taboo? Are conversations about infant loss taboo? Because I often don't hear women talk about it, or men for that matter, except there's a religious program happening and people are told to come on deliverance to stop them from losing their babies or things like that. It's not conversation that I've found happen, and I wonder why. And that's why my question today is, are conversations about this problem taboo? Is it even a problem to begin with? And so I have on the show with me today women who started this conversation online. And first thing I want to know is why they decided to have this conversation online. And online is such a huge place these days with amazing things that tech people are doing to help people communicate. And then there's somebody whose job it is to teach you how to communicate, teach you how to talk about these things. Actually, both my guests teach you how to communicate. It's interesting. But one of them teaches you how to show decorum when you're talking about certain issues. So I looked at her Instagram page and I looked at some of the conversations that she tries to have on her Instagram page. And he said to me that this is actually very timely because Nigerians often don't know how to talk. Nigerians will not see you in a while. And when they see you, you don't get weight. So who asked you? You see, I don't get mirror for my house. I don't get skill. Like, who asked you? Or, hey, see as you don't let that finish. You have to happen, you dey sick. You think I don't get mirror, eh? Or, hey, see as you don't black finish. Hey, you don't yellow. Wait till concern you. Shut up your mouth, eh? So these things happen quite a bit, and someone has decided, you know what, I'm going to teach people to not do stuff like that. So let me introduce my guests. Yeye Bush is an author and a life coach. Yeye, thank you so much for joining us on Hard Facts.
You're welcome.
And we also have Tolagbe Martins, who is a communications professional, also teaching people how to speak proper grammar.
Yeah. Good evening. Thank
Tola,
you for
welcome.
having me. Thank you.
And then we've got Tong on the line, Tunde Andrews. I hope I'm saying that right. Tong, thank you so much for joining us as well. I am fantastic. Yes, well done. Now, let me start with Tolagbe. Tolagbe, why did you decide to start this conversation? Why you? Because like I said, it doesn't seem like a conversation that Nigerians have that often. So why did you decide, hey, this is something I should talk about?
Okay, so I think the beauty of the online space is that it lends itself to challenging conversations.
Okay.
I think, we Sorosuke, right? And but most importantly, we actually live in a culture that struggles with addressing grief overall. You might see a widow at her husband's grave and people will say, don't cry too much, don't cry like that, so we have I feel that there has, and I don't know where it came from, but there is an issue with addressing grief and expressing grief. You are supposed to bottle it in.
Chest it.
Yeah, exactly. So that's even with loss that is chronological or within the order of things. When you now deal with loss that is out of order, child loss, infant loss, miscarriages, that is because it's people almost feel like if we don't give it a name, if we don't talk about it, then it didn't happen. And everything we know about catharsis and healing is that it's like a wound. You must when you have a bad wound, what do? They clean it, even though that cleansing process is painful, but somehow the wound will then begin to heal. So we've got to begin to tackle these things head on. So I just randomly decided to have this particular conversation. It ended up being with a lot of Nigerian women, not just Nigerian women in Nigeria. And it became a wider conversation about why so many things within the female experience tend to be regarded as a taboo. And as you've pointed out with the statistics, if we have a situation where, as you had said, almost 3 in 10 pregnancies, and they will usually end within the first 13 weeks of the pregnancy, are ending in loss. Then why isn't this something? Why are women being blindsided by this? Why is it until you have a miscarriage that you realize, A, this was a possibility, and B, this is how to cope with it?
I like that you say that this was a possibility, this is how to cope with it. Because women who are about to start a family are often not aware that more chance they say this belle no go stay. So when the belle come no stay, you start to think, oh, there's something I did.
Exactly.
Yeah?
You don't just start to think. Many times people will tell you that, when sit down for one place, where you're always going up and down, they walk, those kinds of comments will often, and
people make those comments,
but they often stem from concern, and it's important to recognize that. And that's why Yeye is here, because nobody is saying that anyone doesn't, actually wants to be horrible, but oftentimes you're just going to say things that are not appropriate at a time. So we're saying this happens. It happens in a statistically significant number of cases. So what would we do if we know there's a real risk about something? Equip people with the tools, both to cope if you are the person going through it, and also to cope if you are someone in that person's life and you need to support them.
Now tell me about the conversation online. Tell me about what the women sounded like, what some of the things they said, how they felt about talking about these things, what the experience was like for you.
So, I joked about it because if you've heard of the movie Fight Club, no one talked about the fact that you're in the Fight Club. So something that came up a lot was women said, until I went through it, as soon as I opened up to one person, suddenly I got a floodgate of sharing testimonies. Oh, this happened to me. Oh, I lost a baby. Then you even start hearing about late-term losses, almost stillbirths. People then start to open up, and so you realize, oh my goodness, there's a community of women who are going through this going through this pain silently. Why is it silent? Why was I so surprised? Why wasn't I aware that there was a very real chance of this? And in a way, the medical community, it's not that they do it on purpose, but there's a sort of unspoken, don't talk about your pregnancy for the first trimester.
Yeah, don't post pictures until you have the baby.
And all that is because there's this very real risk. And so they want to almost shield you from having to have the difficult conversations. Oh, I thought I was expecting and now I'm not. But you see, why shouldn't we have those conversations? That's what we're trying to say. We're trying to recognize that this is a part of life and it's a part of a process. So let's normalize it. Let's have the conversation.
Now, Tom is the founder of Brave Tales. Tell me what you do at Brave Tales, Tom.
Okay, can you hear me clearly?
Yes.
I hate to be the one online asking, can you hear me clearly? Okay, so Brave Tales is introducing the world to a new generation of African women who speak up about previously taboo topics. So topics including miscarriage, infertility, rape, sexual, harassment, assault, and things like that. So we have been on for a year, and it started off like a project. But why did we start? We wanted to demystify a few of these things that no one speaks about. So Talabeshi mentioned everything already. They are not sacred, they are not taboo. And the more you have those, the more secure and safe women feel when they go through things like this, and they don't start to feel like the victim, but they realize that these things do happen. And then there's a community of women who can support them with stories of their own, journeys of their own, and just tell them, and those women will be in a better place of recovery, or in a higher place of recovery, and so they can help everyone going through it. So that's what Brave does.
And
Literally.
and in during your work, have you found that people, not just women now, women and men, because men also are dealing with a partner who's just lost a baby. In a way, they've lost a baby as well, because there are men who feel like, I just lost my baby, right? There are men who even take it harder than women. Now, have you found that people are willing to talk about these things? Or is there, do you think that the silence helps a lot of the myth grow? Because there's a lot of myth surrounding pregnancy, surrounding miscarriages. Oh, she posted it on social media. That's why witches drained the baby from her
Jumped
womb.
on her, yes.
Or things like that, So, do you find that people are willing to talk about these things, or are these subjects in fact taboo? Because I don't even know if this subject is taboo, and maybe we're just overdoing.
I like that you've asked that question. So how this started was in October last year, I put up something on Twitter saying, who are the women do you want to have conversations around this? And the number of women who were interested in it, I was surprised. Obviously, I couldn't have everyone on, and had to take just one to two people based on different topics. But again, you look at that, even if we had about 40 people show interest, that's still a very small number compared to the number of women that, infertility, miscarriage, baby losses happen to. And as Taboo said, beyond miscarriages that happen usually in the first trimester, there are lots of women who have, who have to have their babies delivered stillborn between 3 months to 9 months. And there are lots of them, and people are not talking about these things. So what happens is, when it happens, people just say, kind of retreat, don't really talk about it, don't deal with it. And because as a country, we're not very open to speaking about our issues, even with professionals, a lot of these women and men just deal with it privately. It's just now a generation is, starting to literally sorosoke and not.
Some people will say
worry.
that that's a problem, that we're talking about these things. It's a problem. Well, what do you say?
Of course, it will be a problem to them because they're not used to it. Everything that you're not used to either scares you or makes you, or you hate it if you're not afraid of it. But we have found that it's not just us. If you have to look outside, one of, a problem shared, they say, is a problem half solved. So all it takes is you speaking about it. And how did I start? How did I get into Brave Tales? I had a miscarriage. And when I had the miscarriage, I've had 2 miscarriages now. The first miscarriage, I found out that, after I had it, a number of people around me had gone through it. And, even my mom, back then, and I was just surprised. And what that did to me, one, I felt happier, not because they had miscarriages, but I felt like, it's not just me. If people I know who have had it and have gone through it and have gone on to have their own healthy, happy babies, then it can happen for me. But if no one talks about it, then you feel like you're alone. You feel like there's something wrong. And then you feel like you did something wrong. Did I take too much castor oil? Did I go up and down too much? Did I exercise? Was I going everywhere? Was I telling everyone about it? When really sometimes these things are just anomalies that happen. And there could be medical reasons that happen. And sometimes the baby just did not take. And so people when you don't talk about it, you always end up feeling like it's all your fault. And there's no one to share it with. And I don't think that that's a healthy space for any woman or man to be in when they've gone through a loss.
Let me come to Yeye now. You are a life coach. You are an etiquette coach as well. Tell me how people can have these conversations and have it within the bounds that qualify as sensitive. How can people start this conversation? Say Sandra Ezekwesili suffers a miscarriage, and some people knew I was pregnant, and now suddenly I'm not pregnant anymore. How can they talk to me about it? How can they broach me to have a conversation about it? Should they even broach me to have a conversation about it? Is it even their business?
Great question, Sandra. And one thing I would like to say is it's better they give you a chance to broach it yourself. I'm sure if something happens to you, the people that need to know, you would have told already. So if it's anybody outside that circle, they should just, wait for you to tell them. They can look, you should just wait. When you're ready to have the conversation, then you can have the conversation. And one thing we should always remember is we need to have empathy, like put yourself in that person's shoes. Would you want anybody to even ask you what happened? You know, just be quiet and say, if they start telling you about it, listen to them. And I'm so sorry is good. Or just, you know, just have the expression, your body language comes in, the expressions on your face come in as well. Because I've had an experience where I was telling someone of my loss, and the body language, the person actually shuddered. So that was such a turn off.
Why did they shudder?
I have no idea. But of course, it put me off immediately that this person is not a safe person for me to talk to about this.
So you're saying to me that there's a need to create a safe space for these conversations to happen.
Yes, if a person can trust you, of course, they'll tell you what they want to tell you about their situation.
Tola, you wanted to say something while Tom was talking.
Yes, I wanted to say that one of the critical things about sharing, and obviously, I think if I'm sharing, and you know, she used a particular phrase, we want to know there might not be something wrong. But the truth is, sometimes there might be something wrong. And it might be from hearing experience of person A that you might recognize some of your symptoms and seek additional help. That's why I struggle with how there is a bad outcome from sharing your personal story. Of course, I don't have to share Yeye's story. That's not my story to share. But I see no reason or see how there could be a challenge with me talking about my personal experiences. So first of all, there might just be someone listening who's going through the same thing. And since there is the overlap of medicine and superstition and family, you may be able to pull out a particular thread that could be resolved. Then I also wanted to factor in our religion and spirituality. And, you know, we talked about it that someone posted a picture and that's why they sucked you see, again, that's why it's important to have the conversation so that we can see that it has nothing to do with you posting a photograph. It is not possible for anyone to suck a pregnancy out of you from a picture on your social media.
There are people listening to us right now and they say, what do you know? You children of nowadays.
Yes. I mean, the science doesn't support it. Let me put it that way.
They'll say,
right?
what is science?
Well,
You know, just to comment on that, have you heard the superstition where a pregnant woman must have a safety pin on her body?
Yes.
You heard that one?
Yes.
So how does this? What is that superstition?
No, well, in my place, you have to have a pin in your outfit to prevent people from sharing pin on you. It's don't.
No, and you see, the truth is, right? So the thing about myths, legends, cultural memes, because you see, before we had memes that we used to share around, a meme referred to a behavior that was in a particular culture that suddenly spread.
Right.
So the same way, suddenly how in school, maybe someone tucks their uniform shirt in a particular way, and then the next thing everybody starts doing it. That was actually what a meme was before we started, before
we modernized it.
Before it became what it is today. So the thing about a meme is, there may well have been an original myth or legend that led to something. And truth be told, no one is even going to try to. Culture is beautiful and powerful. And so if it's important to you to keep the pin there, by all means. But you must accept that culture is going to evolve. And if Yeye, Tolagbe, and Sandra and Tone want to have a conversation about something that is affecting 3 in 10 pregnancies, that's also our right to move culture along, right? For women to begin to understand, and for men. And you know, Sandra, you had asked me that in the conversation we had online, we had a guy come in who asked about how to support his spouse. He said they had had 2 miscarriages and they were pregnant again the 3rd time. The second miscarriage was actually like an ectopic or an ectopic pregnancy. This is very, very traumatic things going on. So he was talking about the mix of apprehension, fear, and excitement that they were having. And he was asking, how can I support my spouse in this time? You know, I'm so happy, but I'm also so afraid.
Yeah.
And those are universal emotions of you really hope this time will be the lucky time.
Yeah.
But what, he almost wanted to know, what do I do how can I reassure her that even if this doesn't work out? And at that point, you almost don't want to tell the person, even if
yeah.
what? So again, I don't know if Tone in your brave tales, if there was anything for the guy, because in the end we said you just have to watch her body language. Some people don't even want you to touch them. Some people do, and this is the point, because you've also got hormones, you've got everything, you've got the weight of expectations.
Right.
I had what is known as secondary infertility because my children are 7 years apart.
Okay.
And in between that, I had a miscarriage. And I remember feeling the weight of, hey. So because my first son was already like 3+ when this happened. So it's like, you finally managed to get pregnant and then you lost it. Almost like, like how you forgot your lunch bag in school. How could you lose it? Of course no one said that. But I felt
said that to
pressure,
yourself, yeah.
and I felt the weight of that particular pressure. And so being able to talk to people now, who see me with 2 children, with such a big age gap, and I'm able to and see that it works out, that it may not be the way you designed it, but it works out.
And this is the same kind of mystery that surrounds fertility assistance,
Absolutely.
assistance procedures, right? So you have somebody who will come and give a testimony. I waited on the Lord for years, and now I have twins or quadruplets, and you're not telling them that, I went through series and series and series of fertility procedures, IVF treatments to be able to do this. And you forget that IVF is also a blessing from God.
Absolutely.
Because who gave the doctors the knowledge, the revelation?
It's a miracle.
It's a miracle, right? It's a miracle that human beings are able to create that kind of
to
thing.
replicate
Creation.
Such unique circumstances outside of a human body. Like, it should blow your mind each time.
Do you think there's a way to break the silence, Yeye?
Definitely there is a way to break the silence. I think, as Tolagbe has said, with the social media world, nothing is so taboo or nothing is new or strange. And the fact that people are doing procedures all the time now, and I think some of them even document the procedure. And it's interesting because I've had like 4 IVFs and 2 took. And I remember would be in the waiting room and everybody would behave as if they don't know each other. Oh, wow. But, it's easy for me to talk about it now. But at the time, it was like a shameful thing. I'd meet colleagues from my work and everybody would behave as if we don't know each other here.
Whoa.
But this was like years ago. And things have really moved along. And it's not a taboo anymore. It's something that, look, if you waited, I've had a friend, she waited she got married late. She waited, they did what, it didn't work, and then they go adopt a child, and you move on with life. It's one of those things, but people need to tell people the truth so that, like Tolba has rightly said, you come and you say, there's a testimony, but really tell this is what I had to do, and God was so graceful, and it happened, was gracious to me, and it happened.
But
so
some people will also say, is it the business of the people?
Of course not, and I really do respect that not everybody chooses to share, but the same way that you don't choose to share is the way you must not castigate those of us who choose to share. We're not over sabi. It's not that our mouths are leaking. We just recognized that there is a power in owning your story, in sharing with others. You are a gift when you do this. Somebody who someone might have gone through what I'm just saying, and one day she's going to wake up and have 2 kids 7 years apart. I need to tell you, it's the best thing because, like, one person is doing something, another person is doing something else. Like, but
it's also cheaper school fees wise.
No.
No? Okay.
But it's not all at the same time.
If you joined us just now, you're listening to Hard Facts on 99.3 Nigeria Info. I'm Sandra Ezekwesili, and I have amazing women in the studio, and we are trying to break the silence around infant loss, around miscarriages. I have Tunde Andrews, who is the founder of Brave Tales. She's on the phone. Tolagbe Martins is a communications professional, and Yeye Bush is a life coach as well as an etiquette coach. And we're trying to see how we can talk about these things, why we should talk about these things, and who we should talk about these things with. We'll take a break, we'll come back and continue.
Station for talk.
99.3 Nigeria Info.
99.3 Nigeria Info. Let's talk.
9 Mobile presents to stop making paper information. Two, three. For first. New York cable. Or Apple.
Well as an etiquette coach, and Tone Tunde Andrews founded. What's the best way to describe Brave Tales, Tone? What's the best way to describe it?
It's
A club, a
safe
group,
space
a
for
safe. Yeah, okay,
Safe.
fantastic.
I love space.
Okay,
safe space.
all right. So, safe space for women. And we are talking about miscarriages and infant loss. We're talking about why Nigerians don't talk about it enough. I started out wondering if these subjects were taboo. And Tone says to me, yes, they are taboo. Tolagbe has done a great job telling us why the taboo has been sustained, why a lot of the myths surrounding miscarriages, infant loss have been sustained. Don't forget that I started the show by telling you that LUTH conducted research in 2013. I'm sure they've done further research on the subject, and they found that 1 in 3.7 pregnancies end in a miscarriage. Think about that. Alarming number. And I told you that in 2019, Nigeria's infant mortality rate is 74 per 1,000 live births. Huge number. So you know a lot of women who have suffered. Like, I have 3 women in the studio with me, and they've all suffered a miscarriage or 2. So it tells you how, and I didn't even know this going into the show. Like, I swear I didn't know. They just revealed it on air. So you begin to wonder how many other women do I know in my life who are experiencing this, and how many more women should learn that you could experience this too. No be cause, no be bad wish, not just something with you happen. The same way pregnancies are not as easy as Nollywood tries to make it seem, you know? Sometimes it takes longer for some people than for others. And when we don't talk about it, when we just see women show up with their bundles of joy, other women who don't have these babies begin to think that they are doing something wrong because we're not having conversations about how difficult it can sometimes be. So, yeah, say someone comes and says to you, I lost my baby, I had a miscarriage, or my newborn baby died. What should you say to that person? How should you say to that person?
The first thing to say is express your sympathy. I'm so sorry for your loss. I'm a hugger, so of course I'll hug the person, and you can be silent after that. So there are no platitudes you're saying, oh, it is well, it's God's plan. No, just hug them and be silent and just listen. If they want to talk more, allow them to vent or reminisce. Let them talk about it at their own pace. And another thing is that you don't really have to say anything, but just like what you just said, like you're listening, making noises to indicate you're listening, your body language, your facial expression, look interested, you know, look sympathetic with them. Just mirror them, basically mirror them. If they need to cry, allow them to cry. Not it's okay. It's not necessary.
Tola, did she miss anything?
She didn't miss anything, and the "it is well" thing grinds my gears, right? Because it is not well. This person has just suffered, a body blow, a real loss, and I think we diminish people's pain when we throw that phrase around.
Some people will tell you the Bible says in all situations give praise, and it is well is, giving praise.
The Bible also says that there is a time to mourn. I mean, it says that.
Yeah.
Mourning, grieving is a necessary process. It's a part of our cycle of life, right? And what we are talking about is a loss that doesn't fit into that natural order.
Right.
Parents don't pray to lose children, whether in the womb or outside of the womb.
Right.
We have specific prayers in Yoruba that you never want to use your hands to do anything that has to do with the death or the loss of your child. Why do we have such specific prayers? Because this is such a grievous pain. So we're talking about it because we want people to understand that this pain can and will pass. But in this time of this pain, it is valid, it is important, it needs to be felt.
Tone.
Yes. I think they both answered it really well. Mirror the person. So just allow them leave. And another thing I would probably add is their grief is valid. Their grief is valid. So allow them grieve the way they want to grieve. Don't say you shouldn't be crying a week later. You should have gotten over it. Regardless, allow them grieve for as long as they want to grieve. Obviously, if it starts getting to the point of depression, and then you can get professional help. But before that, allow them to do that. Don't try and change it. And another thing, apart from saying it as well, another thing that you shouldn't say is at least you could get pregnant. Thank God you could get pregnant. Because it sounds like it's a good saying, but it doesn't leave. It just leaves the person feeling empty, puzzled, confused. So just avoid saying. And if you have nothing to say, just sit and say, what do you need me to do? What do you need? How can I help?
How can I
be here?
Right.
So just be quiet and listen and follow their lead.
All right, Lagos, let me bring you into the conversation. I'm sure you're itching to join. 0700-993-993. We're streaming live on Facebook, by the way. Did I tell you? We're streaming live on Facebook. We're streaming on YouTube as well. You can watch my guests. Facebook is Nigeria Info 99.3. YouTube is Nigeria Info FM. WhatsApp is available if you want to share your thoughts on the conversation we're having. And our WhatsApp is 080-959-7 75805. 080-959-75805. Call the studio 0700-993-993-993. Hello, thanks for calling us.
Hello?
How are you, sir? What's your name?
Sandra, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Oh, good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Mark Harry.
Welcome.
Thank you. I've listened to the program, quite interesting, and thanks to your guest. I happen to have experienced both, I call them misfortune now. My wife had had 9 miscarriages.
Oh,
Wow.
Yes.
I'm so sorry.
And as God will have it, after at the 10th conception, we were to be blessed with a set of twins.
Oh, how wonderful.
Till the delivery date, unfortunately, through the carelessness of the medical staff, we lost one of them.
oh, I'm so
After
sorry.
9 miscarriages.
So sorry.
But you were saying something about somebody saying it is well, I don't know how you can relate it to somebody saying, okay, at least there is one. You have one, let it go and all that. Because I meant to, press charges and escalate the whole thing. But I just let it go. After, look at the other one, my wife is there. So how did this happen? The doctor was not there, so they called him to say there's an emergency. What they told me is that the babies are close to each other, so there's no way they can come out unless by CS or 2 CS. I said, okay. So they said the specialist, we need a specialist, is not there. They have to call him. They called him for 2 hours. He didn't come. Hello?
Yes, I can hear you.
For 2 hours, he did not come. Within that 2 hours, one of the babies came on his own. You understand? And my wife said that when they said she could not have the baby, they gave her an injection, and she felt that the babies were very close. All of a sudden, she felt them retreat, kind of. You understand? So while waiting for the specialist, according to them, one of the babies came. The one that they eventually operated to bring her was the one that didn't survive.
Oh, I'm so sorry for
After
your
about
loss.
2 hours and 15 minutes that the one came. But what can we do? We have one. Wife is okay. So that's my experience.
Thank you for sharing your story with me. I'm grateful you decided to trust me with this story. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, bye. Wow, what a story there. 99.3. Hello. Hello.
Hello?
Yes. How are you, sir? What's your name?
Sandra,
Yes.
I will not take up my name,
Okay.
anonymous.
All right. Go ahead.
You see, there is one experience I want to share. I have an in-law. He got married to a lady. Now, this lady, anytime she gets pregnant, with 5 to 6 months, the stomach will just go flat. No miscarriage, nothing. No blood. When somebody has miscarriage, they'll be bleeding. This thing happens many times, up to 5 times. You understand? Then, people started to speculate. Then because why I'm saying this thing is that there are forces that contribute to so many of these miscarriage or miscarriage. Then what they say that this lady has a husband. Because at times, these people will come, they'll be beating this man in his house. After beating him, then the lady will be asked, darling, sorry, did they injure you? This boy has been living on this condition for many years. When it became unbearable, the brothers and sisters, even including my wife, they said, this lady has to go. No do, get. But what they said this thing is in their own family, the lady's family house. That there is something that they did there that make it that they should not marry. If they are in a man's house, they will not get children. But if they are not in a man's house, they get children. So when these people became so unbearable, then they had to ask the woman to go. The family demanded for many things they have to give them to settle the lady. They settled the lady. The lady left. rented a house, living alone. She got pregnant and bear a son. This, my young man, went and married. He's now with about 2 or 3 children now. This man told me so that there was a time he was in Okada. These people beat him, hit him. He fell down from the Okada. Okada man left him there and ran away. At times when he will fill his shop with goods, maybe the following day when he comes, he will not see anything again. So why I'm saying this thing is that all these miscarriages or no miscarriages, which people normally complain, they have to go to the root and know because of it. This thing I'm telling you is real. You understand me?
All right.
What the lady is saying now is that when you see that they sent her away because he did not get pregnant. Now then, when these people had it, they went to the family that they should stop. That if they hear this thing again, they know what to do. But since then, he closed her mouth because he was telling people now because he not get pregnant. That's why they asked her to go. Thank you, Sandra. I'm happy to because I've been trying this. Most of your topics I've been trying to join, but no way. I was surprised. I have this one just again. I wasn't even prepared. That's why you hear my radio on. Because I wasn't even thinking that it would go through.
Well, I'm glad you got through today. Congratulations, and thank you for
you
calling
very
to
much,
share this
my
story
dear.
with me. Thank you. Ladies, what do we think about this story that he shared? Tom, did you hear that story?
I couldn't hear it clearly. I had sent you a message that it wasn't very audible.
Oh, I'm sorry about that. Okay, let me come to Tola, who listened.
I think it just buttresses how important it is to share these experiences, you know. So anybody who's going through that kind of unexplained miscarriage, unexplained beatings, at least now you know you're not alone.
Yeah.
I think Tolagbe's answer was so diplomatic, and I think I'll toe that line as well.
Okay, let me go back to the phone lines. 0700 993 993 993. Hello. Sorry about that. If you can, please call us back. 0700 993 993 993. Hello.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening. What's your name, sir?
My name is Chibike Consuelo.
Welcome, GBK.
Okay, I've been listening to your programs and I commend everyone that has contributed, especially those who have on the station. Okay, meanwhile, I have a similar situation. I was early last year when my wife lost 2 babies like that. So, but after everything, how it happened, we could not really explain. So I went back to the gynecologist to find out what is the cause. So he directed us to do a kind of test called Kuhn test. That with that we'll be able to verify what should be the cause. So after the test, we gave it to him, and he read and said that there was nothing wrong, that it could just be an act of God. So, but I'm still finding it very difficult to believe that even up till now, we are finding it difficult to have another one. So I don't know whether those we have in the situation, in the studio, will be able to kind of explain something that may have happened or something that we can do to have another one. Thank you.
Thank you for calling us, Tola.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. I think one of the things we tried to do today was actually recognize that my honest advice would be to seek another gynecologist's opinion. That would be the first thing. At this point, from what it sounds like, you've been trying for over 18 months. And the conventional wisdom says that once you've been actively trying, and it's important to clarify actively trying, because the first thing that you're going to be asked when you get to a doctor and you're complaining about this, they're going to ask you if you've been trying, what that trying entails, how frequently you've been trying. So those are often the questions, because we hear of people who perhaps don't live in the same place, who don't see each other very often, who will complain that they've been struggling to get pregnant. So, there has to be period of
Active trial.
Active trial. But I would say in this particular instance, since they've already been asked to go for secondary investigations, that they should seek another
Doctor's opinion.
Another doctor's opinion as a matter of urgency, because even from his tone, you can hear that it's something that's really weighing down on them.
So I'd like to give a tip. There's something online. It's an app, like an ovulation calendar, that actually helps you track your periods and tell you when you're most likely to to fall pregnant. So I just advise, that's something that's also useful that I'll just throw out there.
Okay.
And is a part of active trying.
Yeah, yeah. Because if you're shooting during the wrong times, you'll be missing. Tone, you have things to add?
So it's very similar to what they said. As Taboo started speaking, I already knew that she was going to talk about knowing your cycle, because a lot of people say, "Oh, we're trying actively," but you need a doctor if you can't use an app. You need a gynecologist to tell you when your more fertile periods are, so that you can actively try within those periods. And that's the only time that they can then say, should we start doing infertility, treatments, just to get you your body ready, or your wife's body ready. So I think, again, he should get a second opinion, and then they should try and figure out the actively right times.
And final thing is
to try.
Thanks, Tom. I think the final thing is he also needs, you see, this thing is important, right? Both of you need to see a fertility specialist together and go through the test that as a couple that you would be required to go through, so that if there's no problem on one side or no challenge on one side, you want to be sure that there's no challenge on the other side as well.
Because what you often find happening is it's just the woman who's doing
focus on the woman.
Yeah. All right, let's take another call. Hello.
Hey, Sandra.
Hey, how are you?
Good evening. I don't know, is there a particular line that gets through to this Nigeria info easier than others? Because, the probability of me getting across to you, even if I call every single of your show, is like once in a month.
It's quite the thing. I tried to call into a show yesterday, and I finally understand your pain one day. I understand it. It's so annoying too, and sometimes it will be ringing. You say, "Oh God, Sarah, please pick it this time."
Yeah, you won't be lucky. And the funny thing is, you may not even be lucky when you want to contribute on a very, very important topic, and you have a point that will be useful to all.
Right.
You understand? So even now that I'm getting across, this is not even the one I wanted to get across to, even though I still have some...
So you're not blocking space for those that really want to get across?
Not that I'm blocking. I still have some useful contributions.
Okay.
But I think the topic before this one was even the one I wanted to give a contribution that I felt...
well, you're here now, so talk about this particular one. Go ahead.
Okay, straight away, so that I don't waste much time. What I wanted to say is that, all the experiences are clear. Each experience is an isolated case of that for that particular couple. Do you understand? The two ladies in the studio, I think there are two of them that shared their own experience.
Three of them shared their experience.
Three of them. By the time you gather some other couples or women, you hear another perspective entirely. But remember that as far as the medical side is concerned, which I'm sure that is the area the women in the studio are concentrating on, you just have to ensure that don't assume one, because the truth remains that in this part of the world, we are always quick to suspect the spiritual. So I'm not saying that should be ruled out. But what I'm saying is that don't assume one and totally go to bed and assume it is this one alone. Both cases, you need to exhaust the options both ways. Like that last man that shared his own experience, the truth remains that that particular case is purely spiritual. And you cannot go and assume medical for that one, even though the spiritual is pure abstract. But I heard the ladies quoting the Bible too. Mourn with those that mourn and rejoice with those that rejoice. But the same Bible also says that we are not ignorant of the devices of the devil too. So you do the medical as if everything depends on the medical, and do the spiritual accurately as if everything depends on the spiritual, so that whichever way you get a result at the end of the day. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for calling. Yeye has something to say.
So my friend was telling me a story. She said her mother told her that, the reason why your brother came 7 years after you was because every time I get pregnant, your father's sisters will do something, they're witches, and I'll lose the pregnancy. But the story her father told her was like, look, she just needed to get her cervix tied. And once that was done, she had your brother, it was okay.
So sometimes it's not spiritual, sometimes it's purely medical.
And that's the power of sharing. And this is why I said that, because we could recount the same scenario, and a medical person, and I think it's important, Sandra, this was not supposed to be about the medical causes necessarily. We were talking about it from the point of the stigma, the power of sharing, and what not to say to someone going through this, because I feel that there is a lot of literature out there on the actual medical aspects, and I would dare say there's a lot of literature on the spiritual aspects also. So we're trying to look at the situations as they relate to individuals.
Yes.
Understanding that I could tell a story about an experience, and somebody listening with spiritual ears will hear one scenario, and someone listening from a medical point of view will hear another.
So even that story that the gentleman called in and told about people beating him on bikes and stocking his shop 1 minute and not seeing stock in there. I'm sure there are doctors listening who have an explanation for why a thing like that is happening. Tom, I want to get your final thoughts as we wrap up the show because we're completely out of time.
No, so I think we've done a great job. I think, like Tolagwe said, the initial intention was to get women to be more comfortable with sharing, and I am absolutely pleased that we had a lot of male callers call in, especially male callers who were hand-holding their partners, their wives, in going through this journey. Because one thing that makes it a lot easier is to have someone who understands the situation and who is understanding of what you're going through.
Right.
So an extra step would be to go and check they themselves. But all in all, I think we've
done justice to the
right
subject.
direction.
All right. Tunde Anjus is the founder for Brave Tales. Yeye Bush is a life coach and etiquette coach. What's your handle on Instagram?
Manners Matter _NG.
Okay. And Tolagwe Martins is a communications professional. Tolagwe, what's your handle on Instagram?
Tolagwe.com.
Okay. And how about you, Tom?
It's at Brave Tales TV.
Okay, Brave Tales TV on social media. I'm S. Ezekwesili online, everywhere else. S. Ezekwesili. Tomorrow, let's talk about Buhari not respecting those that summons from the National Assembly. Until tomorrow at 3, those are your hard facts, Lagos. Good night.
We are more than just radio. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at Nigeria Info FM. Check us out on Facebook at Nigeria Info 99.3. Follow us on Twitter at Nigeria Info FM and on Instagram at Nigeria Info FM Lagos for live updates as it happens. 99.3 Nigeria Info. Let's talk.